Hello everybody and welcome to another One History Help video with me, Mrs. O'Neill. Not only is this another video, it is also the final video in the series looking at the causes of the Second World War. As you can see in this video here, we are going to be taking a look at the Nazi-Soviet Pact of August 1939 and the outbreak of war in September 1939. The video that comes before this looks at the invasion of Czechoslovakia and the Polish Guarantee, the last 6 months before the actual outbreak of World War II itself. And like I just said, our video today is going to be focusing on the Nazi-Soviet Pact and then the invasion of Poland, leading to the outbreak of war in September. Now, these two events here happen very, very closely to each other indeed. The Nazi-Soviet Pact happens on the 23rd of August 1939. The invasion of Poland by the Nazis happens on the 1st of September. I was about to write my birthday then, goodness me. Sorry, 1st of September is my birthday. Let's get the date right there. 1st of September 1939. There we go. Not in the 1980s like when I was born. And then the outbreak of war, Britain declaring war on Germany. That bit happens on the 3rd of September 1939. Go through those dates in a lot more detail later on in this video. Let's talk about the Nazi-Soviet Pact first of all. I absolutely love using this American cartoon about the Nazi-Soviet Pact to introduce it to my students because it's really out there, isn't it? Really out there indeed. Now, I'm hoping we recognise the figure of Hitler on the left-hand side, and just in case you need a little bit of a boost, the guy on the right-hand side is Stalin. A couple of giveaways with that in mind, for instance, are the little communist symbol that he's got on his dress just there. Look at them there on their wedding day. Isn't it stunning? Look, and you noticed as well, again, this idea of it being a Nazi-Soviet pact together. There's lots of symbolism on the two of them here with that in mind as well. So, for instance, sticking with Stalin, although it looks like it's a bit of a hairy chest at the top here, it's actually a Nazi swastika design necklace that he's wearing. And then Hitler here, obviously, he's got his recognizable swastikas on himself, but right in the middle of his cravat there, again, is that symbol of communism, the hammer and sickle combined. And then down on the left-hand side, look at that glorious wedding cake there. Look at it. With, again, all of the different recognizable symbols for them. Now, what I really love about this cartoon, despite the fact it is really out there and kind of crazy, is the caption down the bottom. Wonder how long the honeymoon will last. Because clearly, when the Nazi-Soviet Pact came about, people were very, very surprised. Because if you remember, and you've been watching all of the videos and you've done your learning about the causes of World War II already, you will know that the Nazis and the Soviets were enemies. So why on earth are these two joining together? And how long will this union between them last? I want to talk about Hitler's motivations in the Nazi-Soviet Pact first of all. Why is it that he made a pact with his enemy? Remember, one of Hitler's 3 main aims for his foreign policy was to defeat communism. So why on earth are Nazis and Soviets making an agreement together? Well, from Hitler's point of view, it's all to do with Poland. It's all to do with Poland. Okay. Love this map here. All of those areas in grey there are the areas that are now under the Third Reich. Notice Austria, which would be down here, isn't even there as its own country because by 1939, Germany and Austria are united because of Anschluss. We've got this little area here, which is initialed as BOH, Bo, which is Bohemia, the western part of Czechoslovakia, and then you've got that bit that's grey with the kind of red lines going through it there, which represents the other half, the eastern half of Czechoslovakia, which wasn't technically part of Germany's territory, but was still what we would refer to as a puppet state. It was still under Germany's authority. Notice as well this kind of grey area just over here. Okay, this is Eastern Prussia. This is the area that Hitler very much wanted to reunite with Germany. Danzig we can see on the coast there, and this little part here, which I'm trying to shade in here, is the Polish corridor. Here is the part which is dividing the Greater German Empire, the Greater German Reich, if you will, away from Eastern Prussia. Now, Hitler is no idiot. he knows that if he wants to reunite these parts of Germany, reunite these German-speaking peoples, he is going to need to take over Poland. But again, he knows that Stalin over in the Soviet Union here also wants a bit of Poland as well, because all of these borders and territories that we can see here, these were all divided up on the Eastern Front here when World War I was over. And prior to that, significant amounts of Polish territory belonged to Russia, and they want it back. So Hitler knows that if he's going to be able to take over at least the western part of Poland, to be able to reunite that corridor, he needs to have Stalin on side. Okay, he needs to have his enemy on side. We understand it a little bit now from Hitler's point of view, but what about Stalin? Okay, what about Stalin? Why is he making a pact with his enemy? And it goes back to this. It goes back to the Munich conference from the Czech crisis. Remember, the Munich conference, which is where Hitler was allowed to take the Sudetenland, so long as he promised not to take over the rest of Czechoslovakia. The Munich conference featured Hitler, Chamberlain, Daladier of France, and Mussolini of Italy. Beneš of Czechoslovakia, and for the purposes of what we're looking at here, Stalin were not invited. Okay, they were not invited. And Stalin is incredibly bitter about this. He feels really betrayed by Chamberlain and Daladier, because the three of them had been trying to uphold peace through the League of Nations, despite the fact the League of Nations really isn't doing anything at this stage. But Stalin's thinking, well, hang on, I thought the three of us were a team. I thought we were doing these things together. So he feels really betrayed and very, very bitter about being left out, to the point where he essentially says, well, screw you, Britain and France. I'm going to turn my back on you now, and I'm going to do the unimaginable, because you need me on side to be able to stop him, but I'm going to have some chats with Hitler. Okay, I'm going to have some chats with him. So the idea of why Stalin has got this motivation is essentially because he's got a bit of a bruised ego, because he was left out of the Munich conference. And this is an opportunity now, fast forward to August 1939, where he has this opportunity. Much like the I wonder how long the honeymoon will last, cartoons like this were also published in Britain as well. These two are done by the artist David Lowe. David Lowe was from Australia or New Zealand now, I forget now, I want to say New Zealand, and he does tons of cartoons in the interwar years and also going into World War II as well, which very much takes a comical look at what was going on. On the left-hand side here, again, I don't want to spend too much time analysing these pictures, but just to give us an idea, on the left-hand side, Rendezvous, the cartoon, rendezvous meaning a meeting. We have got Hitler on the left here, we've got Stalin on the right, and right in the middle, down in between them, is the figure of Poland, just like it would be geographically. Okay, to the west of Poland is Germany, and to the east of Poland is the Soviet Union. It's not particularly clear on here, but Hitler is saying to Stalin, the scum of the earth, I believe. And Stalin is saying to Hitler, well, the bloody assassin of the workers, I presume, as in, nice to meet you. All the while there is carnage going on around them, and Poland is completely divided between them. Then on the right-hand side here, someone is taking someone for a walk. And this phrase essentially means that one of these two people is going to betray the other. And we can see this. Look at the guns that are behind their back. We've got Hitler on the right here, and we've got Stalin on the left, walking along the eastern frontier. And again, much like we have him in between the two figures on the left here, that eastern frontier in particular is Poland. Okay, that eastern frontier in particular is Poland. So again, Stalin and Hitler acting like they're busy mates, whereas secretly, behind it all, they're very, very suspicious of each other. The Nazi-Soviet Pact is signed on the 23rd of August 1939. And despite all of the sources, all of the cartoons we've looked at, and also the way that I've been wording it, the Nazi-Soviet Pact wasn't actually signed by Hitler and Stalin, and the two of them never actually met either. So it's often referred to as the Nazi-Soviet Pact, and loads of these sources from the time, the contemporary sources, the primary sources, demonstrate it as a meeting between Hitler and Stalin. But the truth is, the two of them never actually met. And instead, they sent their foreign ministers to meet and decide what was going to happen. From the USSR, we have Molotov, which some of you might have heard of before if you've ever come across a Molotov cocktail. Certainly if anybody ever offers you a Molotov cocktail, I would definitely turn it down. Google it if you want to know what it is. And the other person from Germany was this guy called Ribbentrop. So these two people are the ones who met to sign the pact. And with this in mind, the Nazi-Soviet Pact is sometimes referred to as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Personally, that's a bit of a mouthful for me, so I much prefer Nazi-Soviet Pact. But just in case it's referred to as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in a source, you know exactly what it's referring to. There were two key parts to the Nazi-Soviet Pact. The first part of the pact stated that Germany and the Soviet Union would not go to war against each other. Now, this doesn't mean that they supported each other. Essentially, it just means that they agreed to stay out of each other's way. And this is really important for us to be aware of. The Nazi-Soviet Pact was an agreement and not an alliance. So this isn't Hitler and Stalin, Ribbentrop and Molotov. This isn't these two countries joining together and saying, let's support each other in war. Instead, it's these two countries saying, when a war breaks out, and by this stage it's when, not if, but when a war breaks out, let's just stay out of each other's way. Let's just stay out of each other's way. We're not going to be allies. We know we don't like each other. Let's just stay out of each other's way. The second part of the Nazi-Soviet Pact was all to do with Poland, and importantly, dividing Poland between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. Once Poland had been conquered, Ribbentrop and Molotov decided that the western part of Poland would become part of the Third Reich, a part of the German Empire, part of that wider Nazi Germany. With that in mind, look at it. We've got this area just here, that Polish corridor again. Okay, that Polish corridor, which is going to unite this area here of Eastern Prussia with the rest of Germany. On the other map, you might have noticed this city is referred to as Danzig. Danzig is the name of the German city. Gdansk is the name of the Polish city. It's the same place, but it's just the different names that they give it, that each country gives it. So Germany got the western part of Poland, including Warsaw. Krakow is in there as well. Łódź is in there too. And the Soviet Union got the eastern part. But importantly is this point here. Once Poland had been conquered, it would be divided between the two. Come back to that point very shortly. Now, again, we are thinking about, why is Stalin agreeing to this? And again, he might have been an evil, sadistic, hideous monster of an individual, much like Hitler was. Some say even worse. Stalin, again, is no idiot. He knows that he is going to have to fight Hitler eventually. He knows that Hitler's aim is to defeat communism. So what this pact is doing is giving Stalin time to get his military ready for a fight against the Nazis. It feels a little bit like Chamberlain's policy of appeasement, buying Britain time to get ready for war. For those of you who know your World War II history, you will know that these preparations are vital, because one of the significant turning points in the Second World War, and many historians believe the factor that led to the Nazis' downfall eventually, is when they invade Russia and try to defeat the Soviets. Stalin's no idiot. He knows this agreement looks odd, but he's doing it for the best reasons. I say the best reasons in his eyes, which again is to get his military ready for a fight against the Nazis. This is where we're now starting to see how the Nazi-Soviet Pact essentially makes World War II inevitable. And it's all to do with Chamberlain and Daladier from France's Polish guarantee. The Nazi-Soviet Pact meant that an invasion of Poland was going to happen. So the people of Poland aren't just going to passively divide the country up. There is going to be a military invasion for this to take place. Now, if that's going to happen, then Britain are going to have to invoke the Polish guarantee, because Chamberlain has said to Poland. If Hitler invades your country, then Britain and France will come to your aid and protect you. So we will provide you military support if Hitler invades your country. We promise. And remember, Chamberlain makes that promise in April 1939, following Hitler's invasion of Czechoslovakia, after Chamberlain had let the people of Czechoslovakia down. So he is very determined on following through with this promise. If Britain follow up on the Polish guarantee, then a conflict is going to be happening. And if that is the case, we are literally in this situation now where World War II is inevitable. It is going to be happening. And as we know from the date, Nazi-Soviet Pact, 23rd of August, outbreak of war, 3rd of September. We are literally talking about an agreement being made, and then just over a week later, war actually breaking out. So let's have a look at some of those stages then. On the 1st of September, the Nazi troops roll into Poland. Remember, Hitler is so ready for a full-scale invasion now. Look at that military he's got ready in that picture just there, watching them go. He's got all of his armoured vehicles, airplanes and everything like that as well. And remember, during the Spanish Civil War, he tried out that blitzkrieg tactic, that lightning war tactic. And again, if you know your military history, you know anything about the outbreak of World War II and the Nazi invasion of Poland, he carries out his tactics to the nth degree. Like, he really goes all out with that blitzkrieg tactic. And despite the fact that Poland is a huge country, they are conquered in just over a month, due to those refined military tactics. When Hitler's troops roll into Poland on the 1st of September, Chamberlain tells Hitler that he either gets his troops out of Poland or Britain will declare war. And essentially, Hitler completely ignores that ultimatum. And in a way, we can understand why, because let's face it, up until this point, Hitler's been able to do whatever he wants. And Hitler genuinely believes that Britain are not going to follow up on the Polish guarantee. But after that ultimatum is ignored, Chamberlain goes on radio to the entirety of the British population on the 3rd of September 1939 to officially declare that Britain is now at war with Nazi Germany. Really famous radio speech. Again, I've heard it many times. Every time I hear it, it literally sends chills down my spine just to think of the gravitas of that moment. And you know what? Even then, on the 3rd of September, Hitler still believed that Britain weren't going to follow through with it, that they were all talk, okay? That Chamberlain was all talk and no action. So even then, he still believed that. This is where our study of the causes of World War II comes to an end. And that's a great moment for us just to have a quick recap from this little screen here, which I would have originally shared with you in my first video, which had that overview of the causes of the war along with Hitler's aims and his foreign policy. And if we take a look through that timeline now, whereas previously it might have looked like a load of very overwhelming events, we know that we have covered a lot of these in our videos on the causes of World War II. Incidentally, got Abyssinia in here, and we've got Manchuria in here as well. Just so you know, those are also dealt with in separate videos under my section of the League of Nations. Okay, so all of these are dealt with in my videos just there. What I recommended in that first video was having a think about going through the timeline and seeing if you could fit them into those different categories, either regarding Hitler's aims and foreign policy or looking at the individual causes of the Second World War as well. But what I'm really hoping now is when you look at this timeline taking us right up to where we are today, oh, that's an awful star. Let's do that really quickly one more time, shall we? Taking us right up to where we are today, that's a little bit better. We can see how all of these events that we've learned about fit together. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I really hope, as always, that you found it useful. Don't forget, if you have found it useful, click on the thumbs up thingy to give me a like, and you can always subscribe to my channel as well, where you can get updates about new videos. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm there at One History Help. You can always send me a message as well, for instance, on Instagram if you wanted to, and I can get back to you with that in mind. I've been helping lots of people out with their history revision, not only in the fair country of the United Kingdom where I teach, but also I have had students contact me from across the globe for wanting help with their history work as well, which is always a pleasure. You can also find me on Facebook if you search for One History Help. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye bye.